A very good morning from Toronto, Canada. My name is Rahmat Sobirov. Welcome to Sobirov's live show. Today we have an interesting topic of comparing, not criticizing, but comparing business immigration to startup visa. So we will get to your questions. Let's get started.
Just a quick reminder before we start. Please know that whatever you hear in these live sessions or any content you see on social media by Sobirov's law firm is general information only and not legal advice. While we may use certain real-life scenarios or legal cases for learning purposes, it is important to remember that this does not constitute a legal opinion. For personalized legal advice, please consult with your lawyer or hire a Canadian immigration lawyer. Now, let's get back to our show.
And according to our tradition, we will start with two pieces of news for you to reflect and which are related to business immigration. So number one is remote work. So techtalent.ca reports based on LinkedIn research. These are the cities where people are keen about remote work. So this can help you if you are a business owner to focus on certain areas of Canada when you are advertising to hire for your staff members and for your business operations in Canada. This is an interesting report based on LinkedIn economic graph. And I also suggest that you read this Future Skills Center report about remote work. Things are changing post-pandemic, and it will give you something to analyze when you're trying to hire someone in Canada. Second piece is Team Canada trade mission to India. Honorable Minister Ng, Minister of International Trade, is bringing Canadian team of exporters and stakeholders to India. If you are based in India and you are an entrepreneur in India, on October 9 to October 13th of this year, a Canadian team of exporters and companies will be visiting India. I suggest that you get in touch with them and explore your opportunities of working with Canadian entities. These are two pieces of news that I wanted to share. Today, as I mentioned, we will be talking about immigration, business immigration and startup visa. We will be comparing, analyzing together, but also we will be getting your questions. So get your questions ready and let's get started with our presentation.
Are you constantly on the move, managing your business, and looking for a convenient way to stay informed about expanding your business to Canada? Look no further. Introducing Speaking of Canada, the podcast that keeps you in the loop on all things related to Canadian business immigration, delivering the latest news and valuable tips and captivating interviews, no matter how busy your schedule gets. Speaking of Canada has got you covered.
I'm very happy to see you all. Tell us where you're joining us from. And I have only 10 slides to share with you, but I'm more interested in your questions, feedback, and possibly criticism. So I'm open to all of those. Let me get started with my presentation. Today, I will be talking about business immigration as a separate entity, let's say, and startup visa as a separate entity. Sometimes they are all connected and they are referred to as business immigration in general. Both are great immigration programs. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to criticize one over the other. I'm just here to give you alternatives, to show that there are alternatives too. And when you think about certain immigration programs, don't forget that each program has its target audience, target applicants. And what's best for you in your circumstances when one program doesn't fit all, okay? In your circumstances, what's the best? That's the million-dollar question. And we will give you a framework to reflect, not to say, oh, this is bad and this is great, just to give you food for thought, because when you are doing a step forward towards Canada, bringing your family, bringing your business to Canada, you need to be informed, well informed, before you make your decision. Okay, now let me start with a story. Recently, we consulted a lady from Pakistan, and she had this to say. She said, I don't have an innovative idea and I don't want to innovate. I don't want to lose my money. I want to get a permanent residence in Canada. I have a budget of $200,000 Canadian. My English is not great. My English is not fluent. I'm over 40 years old and I don't have partners in business, and I don't want to have partners in business. I don't want to wait for years to move to Canada. This is a typical scenario that we deal year over year when we are talking to foreign entrepreneurs. Today, my perspective is from the foreign entrepreneur perspective. I will try my best not to go into legal analysis. I will go into practical analysis, what one program does and the other does not. So to answer these questions, the questions and the concerns, what should I do if I am in this profile? That was the main question of a Pakistani potential client that we consulted recently. We asked the 4 questions listed here. Why do you want to establish your business in Canada? What do you want to do in Canada as a business? How much capital you have set aside for your business venture? And what's your risk tolerance? So from this perspective, these 4 questions will be our guiding principles today in our presentation. First, why do you want to establish your business in Canada? Let me be clear that if you are doing what you're doing just to get a permanent residence in Canada, I don't have a good news for you. Startup visa program is not designed to be the only for those who have only PR in their minds, okay? Because the immigration regulations in Canada, they mention about artificial transactions. So you need to be really careful, and here you can read it with me. For the purposes of this division, the division that of the legislation, an applicant in the startup business class, which is referred legally startup business class, and the program referred to as startup visa program, is not considered to have met the requirements of this division if the fulfillment of those requirements is based on one or more transactions that were entered into primarily, that's the key word, for the purpose of acquiring a status of privilege under the Act. So rather than, and let's continue, rather than Section B here says, for the purpose of, in case of applicants under startup business class, for the purpose of engaging in the business activity. So the main purpose is business activity, not the PR, okay? That's the framework I want you to digest, because if there is a program specifically designed to make you a PR through business immigration, running a business, that is a PNP entrepreneur streams that are specifically designed to make you PR at the end of the tunnel. So when you perform under PNPs, that's the ultimate goal. But under startup visa program, and as I read this piece of legislation, the PR is not the primary purpose of your transactions, of your preparations, of your application. So if you want to get PR, then I think there are alternatives too. While startup visa is a great program that has been very popular recently, and there is a huge backlog which I will touch upon very, very soon. So to answer the question, why do you want to establish your business in Canada? If the answer is to get the PR, then startup visa is not the right fit. If you want to get a PR by doing a business, legislation has created PNPs for that purpose in that respect, okay? So the second question that we ask our potential clients when we talk to them is, what do you want to do in Canada? Now, from the perspective of startup visa, if you want to build an innovative company in Canada that will be scalable, that will be competitive and create jobs in North America, in Canada, then startup visa is a great option. Innovative idea, innovative business, yes. An example that is usually cited by immigration industry is a new type of rice to grow in Canada. That's the example. Even agriculture is a very traditional business, but an innovation, a novelty in that business is also a good fit for startup visa. A new type of rice to grow in Canada, in Canada's harsh weathers and conditions and so on. So that's a great example. If you want to build an innovative business in Canada and you genuinely want to do that, then startup visa is a great program. But if you want to run or build a regular business that is a traditional business like wholesale, construction, transportation, logistics, and so on, business immigration is a better option in that scenario. So that's the analysis number 2, the question number 2 that we asked. Question number 3, how much capital can you set aside for your business venture? The number one message that we want to get by asking this question is $200,000 that you have in the scenario of that Pakistani lady, a businesswoman who wants to come to Canada, $200,000 that she has allocated to for her purpose is just the beginning in the case of startup visa. It's a seed that needs to be grown further. It's capital intensive, so you will invest, you will keep building your startup after 200,000. So that's the message. And typical cost, we will come to typical cost of each program. Typical cost for per founder under startup visa ranges between 150 to 200,000. That realistically. So message number 2 we want to get during this analysis is $200,000 that you use to buy a business and a running business, or to establish a new business on your own, a traditional business, not an innovative or some like a unicorn business, then $200,000 for business immigration could be enough. Okay, you need to then you are exposed to market risks. Of course, you are getting into market and can start generating income, because in the startup scenario, generating income and becoming profitable with the seed capital is very unrealistic. You know the startup world. If you are an innovative business owner and you've done startups in your home country, you know that the beginning is just the beginning. There's a huge, a big journey to cover. And in the business immigration case, when you buy an existing business, it is less capital intensive. Yes, you invest into your business. You renovate your business, maybe you bring a new line of product and so on, but this should be sufficient. 200,000 should be sufficient for business immigration. Now, the last question that is very interesting and very touchy in terms of risk tolerance is, we ask, what's your risk tolerance? Are you ready to lose money? So over 90% of startups fail. You know it, I know it, the government knows it. IRCC knows that 90% will fail. And you are almost certain with the 90% probability that you will lose money, because are you ready to burn that money? Unless your startup is a unicorn, is a next unicorn that will bring you millions, usually the market says 90% will fail. And everybody is okay with that, because that's the reality. It's really difficult to bring something new to the market, especially in North American market. It can work in your home country, but can you be competitive, scalable, and growing in North American market, in Canadian market? So that's the question, and you ask when it comes to your risk tolerance. Are you ready to lose the money? When it comes to running a regular business, on the other hand, you are exposed to market risks, of course, pandemics, market risks, things going not as you planned. You are exposed to usual risks. And in that scenario, selecting the right business becomes crucial. Selecting the right business to minimize your risks, it is very, very important. So these are 4 frameworks, let's say, 4 questions that you need to ask yourself. And you need to ask, am I innovative? Am I ready for the risk exposure? What am I trying to do in Canada? What's the purpose of me doing something? Is it just the PR or something else? So based on that, one program can be better for you than the other program. So I'm not saying that business immigration is the best program after all. No, Startup Visa is the best for the right person, for the right group of people. Now, in a nutshell, let's put it in this analysis. Why, what, how much, risk tolerance. In Startup Visa situation, you create a new solution to problems. Something new, something novel that you create. And ask the business owner, ask the startup founders around the world, coming up with a novel idea that will fly is not an easy task. What you're trying to do in Canada under Startup Visa is you're trying to build an innovative business. An innovative business as something new, something that has never been done in a way, right? How much you're ready to spend? Be ready to spend $200K per founder of the startup venture. Because have you seen a one founder startup fly very high? You need multiple founders. So multiple founders mean multiple expenses. So be ready to spend $200,000 per founder when you're developing the business idea, when you're proving that it's innovative, when you're doing your business analysis and everything, when you're putting some money down to develop a website, a prototype or something, okay? Risk tolerance is high according to our estimate. Be prepared to lose all your money. And now let's see the business immigration. With all its risks and dangers associated, you want to, under business immigration, you want to immigrate to Canada through business, like PNP, right? Business Immigration Program, PNPs. You want to immigrate. Yes, you are doing it through business, but you want to immigrate ultimately. What you want to do is to run a business. Run a business in Canada. How much you're ready to spend, that's if you look over all the business immigration programs, the provincial ones, and the federal ones, a rough benchmark is 150 to 200,000 should be enough. So it's a beginning also, but the higher, the more competitive business, you spend more. But 150 to 200,000 should be enough to buy or establish a business in Canada. Risk tolerance here, low to medium. As I said, you are exposed to usual market risks, and be prepared to handle usual business risks, as I said, because you may have risks of not finding the right person. You may have a risk of a pandemic, the economy, the inflation, and so on. So be ready for that, and that's a one-page comparison when it comes to Startup Visa and business immigration. Coming back to the story of that Pakistani lady that consulted with us, he said that his brother was in the Startup Visa process at the moment. He is in the process, and he's been waiting for some time. And what he's doing is just waiting for his PR. But unfortunately, with the latest refusal rate increase under Startup Visa, we can see that IRCC has become very knowledgeable to identify so-called passive investment or wait and see mode kind of applications, right? So that Pakistani brother who applied for Startup Visa, he's just waiting for his PR. Do you think IRCC will not review that project and say, and by the way, one of the founders that he has never met is in Canada and trying to run the business, while another partner in Pakistan, he's just waiting for PR. So that's the story that I started with today. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to give you framework to analyze. I'm not criticizing Startup Visa, although there has been a lot of criticism lately by the applicants and by the stakeholders involved in Startup Visa. because this process is so long. 37 months that I checked recently on August 14, and let's see the numbers. Let's see the numbers here. Planned immigration levels for 23-25 has been identified that federal business programs, including startup visa applicants, will be around 3,500 in 2023, 5,000 in 2024, and 6,000 in 2025. However, at the moment, current startup visa application backlog, according to the industry players, in October there were 6,400 people in the startup. As of now, in August 2023, I heard the numbers of 17,000 or 19,000 in the pipeline, in the backlog of startup visa applications. So the record number of approvals under startup visa was in 2022. There were 555 approvals under startup visa. Now, the IRCC, then how fast IRCC will consider all startup visa programs at the moment. So you need to be realistic. This could take several years. And now I will mention again, 37 months, that's more than 3 years for the processing of startup visa program. Is it the right program for you? Or you should look for alternatives? Ask this question to yourself and be honest with yourself. If, let's imagine, the startup visa intake stops today with 17,000, 19,000 backlog, it will take at least 8-10 years for IRCC to clear that backlog with the rate that they are considering right now, right? The rate could be, I don't know, if we think of 65% refusal rate, even if we assume that 3,000 applications, startup visa applications, are considered per year, which is not realistic. 3,000 are not considered per year by IRCC. To clear this backlog of 17,000, 19,000, it takes many years. Just do your own calculations. Tips for those, many people ask, okay, what if a startup visa is not right for me? We identified maybe it's not right for you. Here are some tips, very few ones. There are many that I can bring, but just typical two tips for you. If your English or French language is at the level of CLB 7, then, and you are in tech space, in the technology space, innovation space, consider tech immigration or business immigration options as viable alternatives. Okay? If your language is weak, you are not perfect in language, but you have certain net worth, you can also consider PNP, entrepreneur streams, provincial nominee programs where you buy or establish a business in certain province, you run it for 1 or 2 years, depending on the province, and get nominated for permanent residence by that province. So all in all, in this realities, as we speak now in August 2023, you need to be ready for a journey of 1 to 2, 3 years to get a PR in Canada. It's not fast, but it's doable. So ask yourself these questions. These are the frameworks you need to consider. Ask questions to us. If you have an objection, send us an email and we will get you a holistic and honest feedback. So if you need a holistic guidance in business immigration, where we are not afraid to ask tough questions and respond to difficult questions, talk to us. We've been doing it for the last 10 plus years. If you don't find any value after talking to us, we will give your consultation feedback. It's not a problem for us. So these are our contacts. And now I would like to get to your questions. I hope you found this presentation helpful. If not, I'm sorry for taking your time, but these are the questions that I wanted to discuss for some time. I've been talking to lawyers, to immigration consultants, immigration lawyers, and all the stakeholders in the business. There is a level of frustration with certain business immigration programs, certain other startup visa programs. People are not happy, but we have to ask tough questions. We have to address the elephant in the room and be honest with ourselves. So any questions about that, I'd like to speak to you through consultation, or Now you can ask your questions right now and I'll be happy to respond. Let's get to your questions.
To stay updated on all things related to Canadian business immigration, check us out on social media. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest news and updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell to stay informed about the most recent immigration news, interviews with top immigration specialists, and our weekly live shows. Visit our website at www.sabirovs.com for more information or to book a consultation with our team of experts.
Again, just a quick reminder, you can go to sabirovs.com and book your 1-hour strategy meeting with our senior lawyers. We will sit and talk with you in detail and try to find a good program, a good immigration program for you. So now let's get to your questions. Rizwan is asking, hello Rizwan, thank you for joining. I'm age 50 plus, which immigration is good, PNP or SUV with minimal investment? I need to know what's the minimum investment that you're referring to, but as I mentioned in my presentation, for PNPs, the lowest PNP that we know of at the moment is a Rural Alberta program, Rural Alberta Entrepreneurship Stream, that requires 100,000 Canadian at the minimum with certain amount of net worth that you need to demonstrate. If you are okay to consider that, that's the minimums, okay? With the age, there is no age limitation under certain PNPs. There are like up to the age of 59. Certain provinces, they want younger people between age of 25 to 59 and so on. There's a very detailed guide on our website. When you go on our website, there are many guides, including the guide for PNPs. If you want me to compare the startup visa with PNP, again, the 4 questions that I asked today, what's the purpose? If you want to get a PR, just the PR, then I think SUV could not be the right fit. And you need a lot of energy invested into your startup. You need to run it. You need to come up with prototype, MVP, market proof, and you probably will need to attract more investment into your startup. So in this scenario, in a very specific scenario, I think I would lean more towards PNPs rather than a startup visa in your situation. Next one is, if I can read quickly, Jules, KDR Jules. It's taking 37 months long, but at least we can get work permit within a year, right? Once letter of support is approved. Yes, that's a great question. That's a great insight. At the moment, you can get a work permit. Yes, the government has made some changes allowing, previously the work permit would be restricted to your startup only. Nowadays, all old backlogged applications, I think it's about the old ones, but there's no clarity whether new startup visa applications can get 3-year open work permit, right? Then recent changes in June were about, okay, apply for startup visa. If you have applied for startup visa, now you can get 3-year open work permit that allows you to work anywhere in Canada, including your startup or somewhere else where you can make your living. Yes, you can do that. I have no problem with that. However, if you are competitive in the marketplace or not, what do you want to do in Canada? Will you invest when you get an open work permit? Will you go and buy another business or establish something else other than your startup? What will you do with open work permit? That's more important. Yes, you can get a work permit. By all means, come to Canada. Try to be competitive in the labor market. Try to find a job, get a job offer, get a good salary. All these are questions that you need to ask yourself. I got a work permit, what will I do with that work permit? How it will help my family, how it will help my immigration, ultimate immigration, if you want to get a Canadian experience, be qualified under Canadian experience class or whatnot, like many other scenarios. Work permit is good. If it's in your pocket, come to Canada. Start to look for a job or start to do something else. Will you spend more? Now that you've spent for your startup visa expenses, right? you've paid incubator fees, business incubator fees, you've paid lawyers fees, you did some other things to do your startup investable or viable. So these are the questions you can ask yourself when you are contemplating about Startup Visa. Yeah, again, Startup Visa is a great program. It will give you so much opportunities. However, you need to compare it with something else in order to see the benefits of it, okay? You need to compare it to something else. If it's standing on its own and you're just thinking about Startup Visa as a way to PR, there are many questions that you need to ask yourself, such as, why do I need a work permit? Will I be competitive? Is my English enough to get a job in Canada? Where are the many qualified candidates, including the ones that are coming from the US with an open work permit? Are they creating more competition in the market? Recently, just a digression, recently Statistics Canada published a report where they said most vacancies in Canada, around 1 million open vacancies in Canada, they were the vacancies for which you need a high school degree. These were labor vacancies, more labor intensive vacancies. The high level where you are required to have a university degree or professional degree, the vacancies are not there. It's quite competitive. You need to do your research in terms of, okay, I have a work permit, but what will I do with work permit? How do I earn my living in Canada, and so on. So this is my long answer, but I hope you found it useful. So let's get another question. Okay, good morning, Sadiq Qureshi. Thank you for joining. And here's a question. Getting a business under C11 program through your law firm, thanks all of you, but I can't work according my business plan. Can I change my business plan? Okay, I think Sadiq Qureshi is asking, once you get a business under C11, a significant benefit work permit, you come and you've provided a business plan, which is not a legally obligatory document, right? It's a plan, and plans can change. Sometimes the market forces you to change your plan, right? So business plan, as long as you're committed to run the business, maybe differently than originally planned, that's okay too. For example, we had a case many years ago when person purchased a pizza store, a pizza place, but then pandemic hit. The pizzas were not incoming, sit down customers, right? They had to do online delivery most of the time. They changed the business structure and business occupation. They became a back kitchen and started to cook. They were not welcoming any customers during the pandemic. They had to change. This is the objective reality. And to be honest, IRCC is quite reasonable in understanding that you had to change your business plan. That's okay too. But the most important is you tried hard to pursue your plan. It didn't work. It failed. Yes, you tried again. You're genuinely running a business. That's the most important. And it should be, of course, a viable business. And many businesses suffer because of the changes in the environment, in the economy, and so on. I think it's okay to change. But again, if you are our customer, if our client, let's talk. Talk to your lawyers who's responsible for your file and come up with a solution. It's always reasonable to change your original business plan. Okay? Ajay is asking, hello Ajay, is it possible to invest $25,000 into a business and get a work permit to run the business? Well, depends on what kind of business. Some businesses, they are not capital intensive. For example, consulting business, what you can do. But again, you need to be realistic. A consulting business, a competitive market where you only 25,000, is it enough? I think it's a very small number in Canadian realities. We had a case of a Russian citizen, and you can read the success stories of our clients on our website. We cannot publish all of them because of confidentiality reasons and so on. But there was a Russian client that we dealt recently. She bought a hair salon for $40,000. You can read her story. But she had another $50,000 ready to invest into and improve that hair salon, to add some technology into that, something innovative to run the business and create more jobs for Canadians. So this is the smallest example I can give in terms of monetary investment. But again, $40,000 to purchase a business in British Columbia, but again, another $50,000 ready to invest and improve that business. That's a realistic goal, and the immigration authorities and Canadian government will look into the business plan if it's realistic. If it's viable, why not? But again, $25,000 is, if you rent a place in Toronto, let's say, $25,000 for an office of a decent size will be consumed in about 4 months. It will be gone, $25,000. So you need to be realistic. You need to be realistic with yourself, with the business that you're trying to do, and with IRCC, whether it's a realistic business for $25,000 and becoming to move to Canada. Nanar, I think Nanar is asking, how about if your English is not good but you have money to invest? Yes, that was one of the tips that I gave in my slides. Let me bring up that slide. Again, I'll ask our technician to share the slide. So here's a tip, and this is just a few tips. I can give more tips depending on the situation, but weak English, but you have certain amount of money, certain net worth, ready capital, you can consider provincial entrepreneur programs, okay? You can also do the other immigration programs, but again, English, if it's very low, so then you need to consider provincial nominee programs where English requirements are quite low depending on the province, and you can buy it or establish a business there and run the business successfully for a couple of years and get nominated for PR. So that could be another alternative. Again, the journey to become PR is not very fast. At the moment, I always advise my clients that you need to be ready from 1 to 3 years of a journey. We have a success story of a Vietnamese client who had very low English. It's coming, that success story we will publish tomorrow, so stay tuned. He had to take English language test 5 or 6 times. I can't remember exactly, but he tried his best and he succeeded. So we are bringing that success story tomorrow of a Vietnamese client of an older generation. He's not young, but his language is not perfect, but he managed to get enough score to become permanent resident through our help. Okay, so again, another question, Umar Bakhtiyorov is asking, I'm exporting dried fruits from Uzbekistan. So if I import dried fruits from Uzbekistan or other countries and sell in Canada, what program it will be? That's a great question. Dried fruits, there are Health Canada regulations. You need to really analyze what kind of dry fruits and what standards it should go through checks of Health Canada. But if you manage to export, usually entrepreneur visa programs are the best. If you have an existing business in your home country, intra-company transfer could be an alternative. So I suggest that you go and read that. If you have a viable, profitable running business in your home country, and you have enough cash to invest into your Canadian operations, intra-company transfer, C11 work permit could be an option. But I think from your question, I can see that your English is quite advanced. You're typing without any mistakes, and your English seems to be okay. Talk to us again. Let's brainstorm together and find the best place, maybe in Canada, or the best program for you to go through. I think there are a couple of options that you can go through. Intra-company transfer, C11, or even PNP entrepreneur stream could be an option for you. Excuse me. Akinyemi is asking a question: how can I change from a visitor visa to a business visa? Excuse me, I'm under the weather. So if you are on a visitor visa at the moment in Canada, you can stay for up to 6 months in Canada without working. You cannot work, unfortunately. But within that 6 months, you may change your status. Let's say you want to do a business immigration and get a work permit to run your own business. I think 6 months is just bare minimum, just enough to change the status. But once you apply to change the status, if you're out of 6 months, you can extend for another 6 months saying that, hey, IRCC, Immigration Canada, I'm about to change my status. I have the money and the resources to change that. I have applied to change. I'm waiting for the decision. Can I stay in Canada for another 6 months? You can also ask for an extension of your visitor visa. One way to change your status is to acquire a business and apply to run that business on a work permit. Or again, provincial nominee programs. If you are in Canada, go visit provinces and find out if they will be willing to support you in your effort to do PNP entrepreneur streams. The economic development officers of each province, they are interested in attracting foreign entrepreneurs like you. If you don't have any understanding of what business immigration is, talk to us. Let's discuss it and see how you can change from a visitor status to business visa, business immigration work permit. Next, Ajay, do banks finance the purchase of a business asset or a running business which I would like to purchase? That's a great question. I talked to one of the leading banks in Canada. They said, as a general rule, when somebody invests 35% of the purchase price, puts a down payment, let's say, of 35%, if the business is viable and it's running, it has a history of sales and history of revenue, then the remaining 65% could be financed by the banks. But again, there are top tier banks, there are second tier financiers, and so on. So you need to first, what kind of business you're trying to buy? Is it viable? Is it profitable? And how much you're ready to put down payment? So these are the questions that bank will ask. Or if you can find a co-signer, a Canadian partner who can help you, and so on. There are many factors to consider. As a short answer, yes, it could be a possibility, but again, it's on a case-by-case basis. Next question, please. Okay. I think I've covered all the questions today, and if you have any comments or feedback about this video, let me know. I'm ready to discuss it with you openly. I'm an open-minded person. If I said something that you don't agree with, let's discuss. This is an open conversation and I invite you to discuss it with us. Leave your comment under this video wherever you find this video on any social media platform, and let's engage in conversation. Let me get some education from you, or if you want to share some thoughts, I'll be happy to get it from you. Thank you very much for today's participation, active participation. I love these Q&A sessions. Stay tuned for our success stories about our Vietnamese client. Tomorrow we are trying to publish it. We need to process some videos and audio files. Have a great rest of the week. See you next time. Be safe.